Thank you. I'd like to apologize, although sometimes members of the other party, they get so used to talking about union jobs, it implies nobody in Congress cares about non-union jobs. I've got a lot of good friends in the unions, but I think it's embarrassing that we're getting to the point. The hatred of diversity is so intense that they can't say we want to expand the government by all jobs. They just, you're not a union, you don't count. But I got a question here for you. A new Biden administration, and this is for for Mr. Brubeck, a new Biden administration rule mandates the contractors and subcontractors sign onto a project labor agreement to be eligible to perform work on large-scale federal projects, $35 million and up. This discriminates against merit shop contractors. In what ways do PLAs potentially infringe on the freedom of choice for workers who may prefer not to join a union?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, typical PLAs will force contractors to hire most or all of their labor from union hiring halls and leave their own employees who are non-union workers on the sidelines, and they can't work on those projects. They have to follow union work rules, and they have to pay into union pension and benefits programs. So it's effectively telling non-union workers, you can't participate on the projects. And if there is an exception that allows them to participate, the non-union workers have to pay into these pension and benefit plans, and they will never receive the benefits that they pay into those plans unless they join a union and become vested in those programs. Some of these PLAs are in non-right-to-work states. They may require union membership, but ones in right-to-work states typically do not require union membership, but they do require the payment of agency shop fees and other support of the union programs that they may disagree with as a condition of working on a taxpayer-funded project.
You talk about work rules, and this is kind of going off script here a little, but you talk about work rules, and I think there's a perception that the only difference between union and non-union is maybe how much people are paid. Could you elaborate on how work rules may raise the cost of a project or make it more inefficient?
Sure. A number of contractors that are union are signatory to their collective bargaining agreements with specific unions. What that means is that they have to follow the work rules outlined in those collective bargaining agreements for any of the work they perform. For example, if they are building a sidewalk, they have to hire a carpenter to do the carpentry forms around the sidewalk. They'll have to bring in someone from a different trade to do other aspects of that sidewalk. On the non-union side, a lot of contractors are able to do something called multi-skilling, where they're able to bring in one or two people who can do the job tasks across multiple trades, and that'll allow them to be more efficient and have more skills overall in the life of the project and for the careers of the actual construction workers too.
Okay. Mr. Dreyer, since 2009, under a policy initiated by the Obama administration, federal agencies have been encouraged to consider mandating PLAs on federal construction projects, but they've rarely done it. Why do you think that's so?
Because it was the contractor's choice, right? You know, 12 out of 3,210 contracts had PLAs. So I think that tells us that there wasn't a lot of interest during that 14 years.
Left to their own devices.
Correct.
People wouldn't do them.
Let the people decide. Let the contractor decide. Create fair and open competition.
Okay. Any studies indicating PLAs increase the overall cost of public construction projects?
Yes. Yeah. The overall cost increased 12 to 20%. I think the statistics say.
And the result then, of course, is more infrastructure, undone, not as good infrastructure.
Yeah, we're slowing up projects, and right now the industry is so saturated. We're short workers. There's a lot of projects to do, and this is just adding, again, another hurdle that's going to prevent us from achieving that mission.
Okay, final question for Mr. Brubeck. The IRS and Treasury Department have finalized prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements for certain incentives contained in the Inflation Reduction Act, which is a big climate bill that President Biden signed into law in 2022. Will the administration characterize the rule as a win for labor unions? For blue-collar workers, they will most likely give a significant advantage to labor unions. Can you explain to me this weaponization of the IRS to push labor policies and project labor agreements on the Inflation Reduction Act, clean energy tax credits? Is this in the statute?
The prevailing wage and registered apprenticeship requirements on these clean energy projects seeking enhanced tax credits, that is in the statute. What's not in the statute is a new provision by the IRS that says developers would be exempt or get a get-out-of-free jail card for the willful and extreme penalties in the new statute if they sign a project labor agreement, if they require all the contractors to sign a PLA. So they're getting an exemption through regulation to the actual statute if they sign a PLA. And this is going to create a lot of problems. A lot of developers and a lot of people seeking these tax credits are trying to understand the confusing rules behind prevailing wage and registered apprenticeship requirements. And so they're going to be basically pushed and coerced into requiring project labor agreements. So they're weaponizing the IRS and the tax system to develop more union jobs and unionized contractors get into
And hatred of non-union jobs. Or maybe hatred is too strong, but they don't want people having non-union jobs.
We're not welcome.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right, I would now like to recognize Mr. Fitzgerald for 5 minutes.
I want to thank the chairwoman for allowing me to wave on to the committee. It's an important topic, and when I saw it was coming up in the subcommittee, definitely wanted to participate. As my many years in the Wisconsin State Senate, along with Congressman Grothman, by the way, we did do some PLA reforms, and I think one of the things that was always missed, and I'm glad you're reiterating again and again, that you know, what you're talking about